What is going on, everybody? Chris, the Dice Degen here with Ian, Double Deuce. Ian, how are we this evening?
What's going on, DJ? How you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm good. Doing well. Doing well. We got some encouraging news in the Philly fan base for in the football world. Sad to see Reese Hoskins go from the Phillies, but it is what it is. There's some interesting rumblings around that. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, football, it's all right. We cleared house on our coordinators. Good for us. Get those schmucks out of here. Think, my grandpa could do a better job coaching than those clowns. So glad to see they're out of there. But yeah, looking forward to this weekend of football. Got some good games. Only two games this weekend. So light football weekend, but good games, hopefully.
Yeah, this is the time of year where it starts getting a little depressing because then after this weekend we got a week break and then into the Super Bowl. But it's been a good year for football. I've enjoyed it this year. Seeing some, can't complain about the playoff games so far. There really isn't a single one you can complain about. Even the blowout with Baltimore was still something to watch. You know what I mean? It wasn't something
Mm-hmm.
that was exciting to watch, but you got to see them come out and do their shtick for sure. But now we're getting down to the cream of the crop. Let's take a look and see what we got. But it's going to be two good games to really sit down and hammer through and see who's got the stones for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking, best of the best right now. And, they've demonstrated it pretty much all year, but, good teams come out when it matters most, right? And all four of these teams have come out and pretty much dominated most of these games. There's been a couple close ones, but for the most part, these teams have, clear and cut one. And the Ravens have been, I mean, last week, the Texans, I mean, they just made it look easy. Texans still played well ish, but the Ravens, I mean, they were just too much to handle on every side of the ball. They looked really, really good. Um, Chiefs looked good. I thought the Bills were going to squeak it out, but Chiefs looked good. So now I owe you dinner. Thanks,
I was
Patrick
waiting to see.
Mahomes.
I was waiting to see if you're going to remember that. I wrote
Oh,
it
of
down.
course I remember it. I always live up to my end of the bargain on bets, unlike
Yeah,
some
we just
other
yeah
individuals.
some other friends that
Jen,
we know. Jen,
Jen.
yeah,
Oh, sorry, I had to clear my throat there. Um,
yeah.
I'm
We
still
know
waiting
you're
for
on
my
your
dance.
cruise right now, Jen. We know you're on your cruise right now. We just want you to know that we're ready. We're getting ready.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we're ready. We're ready. But yeah, no, it was a good weekend of football. Enjoyed
Yeah,
watching the games. Saturday had some good games. Went to the casino in the morning. Played some bets. Played some blackjack. Came
yeah.
home,
It's
watched
tough.
some football. It was a
Yeah.
good day. Sunday, good day of football. This is the thing, right? It's almost I not saying this in a good way, but it's nice to not have to worry about your team anymore, right? So like
Yeah.
last year, the year before, right? Like my Eagles were making a push there, and I'm sitting here, all right, game time, and like now I got to stress for 4 hours, right? What are these
Yep.
guys gonna do? Now I get to sit back, enjoy the games actually, right? I enjoy when the Eagles play anyway, but I don't have that fan investment, that fan investment. I mean, sometimes those games take a couple of years off your life, but you know,
Yeah,
now I
yeah,
get to
yeah,
sit back and enjoy.
for sure, man. That's my wife. I've got a big 56-inch TV where I've almost thrown remotes through it. Just and she she likes to have parties when I'm at the games. She'll have it at the house here because everyone come over, but she won't invite anybody over when I'm home for a home game, especially a home playoff game.
Oh
Because
yeah,
it's just I'm in a zone and don't talk to me. Don't you know? You get so wrapped up into it when you spend all that kind of money to go to games. I mean, I pay for three seats. It's like $5,000 for three seats to sit and watch that. And then when I'm at home, I want to be able just to relax and scream and yell. I mean, it's funny because I'm a type of guy. If we're losing at halftime, I'll run up to my my room and I'll change jerseys. You know what I mean? I've
yep.
got like six different jerseys that I'll put on different hats. Just because it's changing. Changing to the guards. But now you just kind of kick back right now and just get to watch other people stress. I mean, how
Yep.
funny was it to watch that Buffalo Bills fan put his hat down over his eyes and he's crying and stuff after the loss? And I
Yeah.
just like, no matter how, I didn't even do that when the Seahawks, I went to the Super Bowl against the Patriots, and I didn't cry when we got beat. I was pissed, but I didn't cry. But man, to watch some of those guys do that, and then the whole heart thing from Kelsey,
Oh,
that was classic, and his brother, how
legend.
just what a way to go out, right? Goes and watches his brother. He scores a touchdown, first time in 6 weeks. He scores a touchdown or something like that. He's got beers in his hands. His little daughter comes up to him and says, "Hey, Daddy, I see your boobies hanging out." And, and now pops. I don't know if you know what pops are. Those little fake
Yeah,
heads.
yeah.
I got one of myself here. I'll show you. This is hilarious. Somebody made me one for Christmas last year, so it looks like me. It's kind of hard to see, but it looks like me. It's got my golf club in one hand and my cell phone in the other.
There you go.
But but they already made one of that, of him doing that. It's already out. That company's right up here in Everett, right by Tulalip. That's
Okay.
where the main company of that is. So, there are some good games. I am very adamant. I wanted your opinion. I almost called you when this happened. That stupid, when Hardman's down on the goal line, you're thinking he crosses the goal. It would have put him up by 7 at the time, I think it was. And the ball gets knocked out and goes out of bounds, and then the other team gets it. And, it's a touchback. What's your opinion on that? What should that have been? Or what's your ruling on that? Whether they changed that rule on that?
Yeah, so I agree with the call on the field, right? Clear fumble, clear
Uh-huh.
through the back of the end zone, touchback. I hate the rule in general, though.
That's what I'm
I
saying.
think that is
Yeah.
one of the dumbest rules in all of football. What I think should happen with that is there's two schools of thought here, right? It's either that if you're going to call that a fumble, I think the other team should get that ball at the spot of the fumble, right? You shouldn't get a free 20 yards out of that. The other school of thought that I have on that is I also don't think it's a fumble because it's not a clear recovery. So I would almost like to see it declared as like a forward pass almost. You take a 10-yard penalty, but it's still the offense's ball. I hate the fact that you can fumble the ball out of the end zone. It's a touchback and the other team gets the ball. I think it's the dumbest rule in football.
I agree with you. I think that's has to be one of those rules that they talk about every year at the competition committee, and be able to go back and say, hey, how that hasn't happened before. I remember when the Seahawks did it. They punched
Yeah.
they punched one out against the Detroit Lions on a Monday night game. I was there. That shouldn't have been it. You know what I mean? So I agree with you. It's got to go back. If the defense doesn't recover it, the defense recovers it, that's a different story. But if the defense doesn't recover it, that should be spot where the fumble was down there. If you want to tack on a penalty, go ahead, something. But it should still be the offensive ball, right?
Yeah, that's why I like the penalty there because,
yeah,
I feel like you can't reward the fumble out of bounds, right?
Yep.
Even though if you fumble the ball out of bounds on the actual field, it's still your ball at the spot of the fumble. So
yeah.
I could see it staying that way. I don't hate the fact if you put a penalty on that. I don't hate it, but I do hate the fact that the defense gets the ball at the 20-yard line now.
Yep.
Like that makes me livid every time it happens. Obviously I had the Bills, so I liked it when it happened because they were about to go down 2 scores almost. So but no, as a fan of football, I hate that rule. There's a couple rules I hate. That's one of them, though. It's the worst thing I've ever seen.
It's the same thing what happened with the, Des Bryant catch. The same thing that happened with, Brady and the tuck rule. These are rules that are in place that need to be addressed by the competition committee and be able to say, hey, we need to change this, and this is why we need to change it. I think that's one of those things where somebody's going to have to, look at that. Now, luckily, it didn't matter. But can you imagine if they would have kicked that field goal at the end, not the Norwood kick there, and made that, and they came back and won? How pissed off would Kansas City Chiefs fans be right now? It'd be.
Very.
I mean,
Yeah, there's
that's all you'd be hearing on the news outlets. Hey, they got screwed because of this rule. Well, now's the time to change it. You know what I mean?
no, I think that is a rule that will change. I don't know if it'll change for next year, honestly. But I feel like in recent years it's been more prevalent to have that fumble out of the back of the end zone. And it is a huge, huge change, right? Because in
Yeah,
order to fumble the ball out of the back of the end zone, realistically, you have to be inside the, we'll call it what, 3 yard line, maybe the 5 yard line if you want to be generous. So, I mean, you're within, knocking distance of the goal line, right? So you're
yeah,
at
yeah,
least in field goal range at the very worst, right? If not scoring a touchdown, then I mean, that could potentially be a 14-point swing if the other team drives all the way down the field and scores a touchdown.
yeah.
So,
Well, and that, yeah, totally. And so I just I hope they come up and clutch up and change that rule. Just because, I mean, I think they got to do something with that because it's going to end up costing somebody something. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
I
Someday,
agree 100%.
and it's like,
And I think
oh
that I
man,
hope the competition committee will take a look at that. They're usually pretty good on that kind of stuff. I don't like what they do sometimes, but for the most part, I feel like the rules that they do implement based on something they're usually relatively good. Sometimes they need some tweaking, but their ideas in the right place. So hopefully, they do make a change there, and because I'd be in the same boat, right? I'd hate to see a team lose because of something like that. I'm
yeah,
as a sports bettor, right? If I had the Bills, I did have the Bills, so it is what it is. Um, Hold on. Okay. Think I got rid of him. Um,
that was
Someone trying
nice,
to type
Bob.
in some. Yeah, thanks, Bob, for that. Adios. See you later.
Yeah,
Kick you out. Um, what's it called? Yeah. So like, I'm just a fan of the game, right? To the point where I want to see good football and I don't want some stupid technicality to affect that, right? And that's why,
100%.
like, as an Eagles fan and the Chiefs Super Bowl, I was so hot about that pass interference call because I can acknowledge that that is pass interference. I get it, right? That is PI. It's a textbook hold, whatever you want to call in the play. It's no qualms about it, right? It is a penalty, but you haven't called it all game, and you call it there.
Yep.
So it's like there needs to be consistency with that kind of stuff. I think the PI stuff still needs to change. I feel like there's too many questionable calls on that. I'd rather them let the guys play and not call it than call some of these ticky tacky penalties that they're calling, frankly, that do change the outcomes of games. Like, there's I don't know how many there was this season. There was a cut a few. I mean, even the Eagles game in Seattle, right? They came out and said that pass to AJ Brown, they were looking
Yeah.
for PI. Like, that should not be an incentive to do something like that, right? To know that if you get touched, you're going to get the call. I hate that. I think it should be clear and obvious. Um, and I don't think this is the one thing I do like about college football, where the PI is only a 15-yard penalty. It's not spot foul,
Yeah.
right? I do like the spot foul for the most part, but like on some of these plays, we're talking 60-yard plays that it's a toss up from the get, and you call a PI on it, and now you move them from their 20 to the other 20. Like, come on now.
Yeah. That's the hard part too, is because you're only given you know two challenge flags anyways, and then you've got to
Yeah,
really come up with something on a judgment call like that. Because if you've seen it, man, if it's not irrefutable proof, they're not going to overturn anything, even if the home office in New York's telling them, hey, I don't know. I
yeah.
just I find that stuff kind of shady. So it is what
It's
it
also
is.
tough because, like you said, right, with no clear and irrefutable proof, then you have to keep the call on the field. My problem with that is, well, the call on the field could have went either way, right? It's like a
Yeah.
judgment call
Yeah.
from the referee, what they
Yeah.
called. It's like, I mean, like I almost wish they wouldn't call anything and say they're going to the monitor immediately, but I know they have to make a call.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There's thoughts on both sides, right? I mean, sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, call the penalty there, but other times I'm like, don't call that. Like, come on now.
Yeah,
Um, I just hate when the refs come into a game, right? That's where I have a problem with refereeing is like when they impose their will on a game. And
yeah,
I was actually shocked going into talking about the games last weekend, right? Um, I'll pull that up while I'm getting my point. Um, right, so the Lions game last weekend, right? The head referee in the Lions game last weekend, the Lions are 0-6 with covering a spread with that guy as the referee, and the under is like 10-0 with him
holy
with
moly,
that
really?
head ref because he calls so many penalties against the Lions and for the other team. It's like a 3-to-1 ratio of yardage of penalties with that guy as the head ref.
Hmm.
And like,
Wow.
I'm not going to take credit. I didn't look that up. I saw it somewhere, right? But like, people notice these things, right? It's not just
Yeah,
like, oh, I'm pulling this fact out of my ass. No, like, people actually track this stuff and they know these things, right? I might not know it for every NFL referee, but for like my soccer betting, right? I know which refs give out more yellow cards, right? I don't
yeah,
necessarily always bet on cards, but there's some refs that are just card happy for everything. So when I see them reffing at two teams that like to get physical, give me the over in cards because these two teams are physical by nature, and this ref gives a card for blowing past somebody. So like, give me that, right? I mean, it is what it
yeah.
is. But um, all right, let's get into last week's games.
All right, let's do it.
Houston Ravens. It was a
Well, can,
blowout.
can we back can we back up for a minute? Sorry.
Go ahead. Beat, beat,
Let's
beat.
talk about Harbaugh coming back to the NFL though, real
Oh yeah,
quick, because
yeah, yeah. How could we
I
forget?
think that's big. I think that's a big move because I think that's going to change. I mean, the AFC West has got. I mean, show me a bad quarterback. That rookie out of the. I can't even remember his name out of the Raiders, but there's a lot of talk that maybe Russell will go over
McConnell.
to the Raiders. Yeah, whatever his name is. Yeah, fourth round pick,
Yeah,
rookie. But there's talk now that if Russell gets waived, a lot of the guys here in Seattle that know him are thinking maybe he'll go to the Raiders, which would make things interesting
interesting
to
move.
kind of stick it to Sean Payton twice a year. I think that would be kind of fitting, wouldn't it?
Very.
But to have Harbaugh go down there, I mean, that's a big move for San Diego. I mean, they need to do that. I mean, they're not. I mean, people like me still call them San Diego, even though they're in LA. They need to make a
Mm-hmm.
statement, big time, and I
Yeah.
think they did today by hiring him. Now, how much control he's going to have? Is he going to have like Pete Carroll control? Man, I sure hope not. I mean, that's the one thing that I'm liking about Seattle making a move on their coaching staff is that now the GM's a true GM. These guys like Holmgren, even Holmgren came on the radio here in Seattle because he lives here in Kirkland now, and he said that that was just too much work being the GM and the head coach. And he said he just
Mm-hmm.
got over his skis. And so if a guy like that's saying that, then imagine what some of these other guys. But I think that's big for this Chargers team. I mean, they're going to get a true leader. Somebody's going to come in. Obviously, a winner. I mean, I'm not the biggest Harbaugh fan just because of him and Pete have been battling together for 17, 18 years, talking smack to each other. That's why we didn't even interview. I believe the Hawks didn't even want to interview him because that would have left such a bad taste. Even though they did a poll in the Seattle area and 58% of the people said they wanted them to interview John Harbaugh or Jim Harbaugh. So, I mean,
Yeah.
we'll see. But, hey, congrats to him. Welcome back. There's something going on in Michigan if he wins the national championship and then jumps out. I mean, I'm sure there was a little bit of the worriness about if they're going to get put on probation or anything like that. So,
Well, I
all
think
right,
I
let's
think
go
the
back.
worry was there from the start, right? Like, I don't know how much you know about, and for anybody watching, I don't know if you guys follow college football coaching contracts at all, but he he told Michigan he wanted to be the highest paid college football coach, right? He was looking for a fat check, but he was also looking for a very low buyout option on
Yeah,
that in
exactly.
case an
Yep.
NFL team came calling, which I think spoke very, very loudly, even though a lot of people were like, oh, you can't make a big deal about that. I think that basically cemented the fact that he's going to the NFL. It may not be this year, but he wants to be in the NFL. And
Yep.
as soon as that first team comes calling, he's going. Right now,
Yep.
obviously, this year he had interest from a lot of teams. But, let's say he didn't get picked up this year. And next year, Michigan has a decent year. And we're looking for NFL head coaches again. Well, that low buyout allows him to basically just go and not worry about
Yeah.
having, because that's the thing with college coaches, right? That's a lot of people always wonder, why aren't the college coaches coming up into the NFL? Well, because some of them have such high buyouts, they physically can't, right? They basically
Yeah.
go broke trying to come to the NFL. And the other thing is, a lot of those coaches don't make very, very good NFL coaches. Let's be honest, right? They don't.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how Harbaugh does. I don't know how he will do. I hope he does do well. The Chargers are a good team. They have a lot of talent on the team. They are getting, little elderly in some positions. But I mean, you got Justin Herbert, you
Looking
got
Eckler.
Eckler,
Yeah.
Keenan Allen, right? He's getting up there in age, but I mean, your other guys, you got, Josh Palmer, good young
Yeah.
guy, Quentin Johnson, right?
Michael
Guys who,
Williams. Michael Williams is going to come back too. You know that.
yep, you
Yeah.
got good guys there. So I'd like to see them do well. So hopefully Harbaugh turns them around. I guess we'll talk about his
Well,
brother.
he's proven himself, right? I mean, look what
Yeah,
he did with the 49ers. I mean, he did. He took him to a Super Bowl. They didn't win it. They took him to a Super Bowl. Solid coach. They did a great job bringing San Francisco back when they were, in the tank. So it'll be interesting to see what he does. But hey, congrats to the Chargers. Now they can actually say they've got a coach. Now
yeah.
the players are going to have to step up, which is going to make it even more interesting. So yeah. All right, let's get into last week's game. Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about him. The blowout that was the Baltimore Ravens up against the Texans. I did not foresee that at all.
Yeah.
Not that I didn't foresee it, because I did mention last week. I went back to the tape to review it, actually. I did mention I wouldn't be shocked if there was a blowout here. But I also said the flip side of that, where I wouldn't be shocked if Houston won this game. And I thought they had a chance. They looked good in the first half, or let's say the first quarter and a half, and then the wheels kind of fell off. And I think the Ravens just took over. They imposed their will on the Texans, right? They held
Yep.
the ball and they were scoring, right? And the Texans didn't have an answer for that. I'll be honest, CJ Stroud looked kind of like a deer in headlights there for a lot of the game. I'll be honest with you. The first quarter, maybe not so much, but the last three quarters, he was struggling to find receivers. The passes weren't as crisp as they usually are. But it's props to Baltimore's defense, because Baltimore's defense was giving him a lot of looks, a lot of tough looks, changing up coverages, and Baltimore looked good. They looked really good.
Baltimore looked really good. I mean, just to come out after having some time off, no rust whatsoever. I mean, they came right at it. I mean, they stifled, CJ Stroud. It was 19 to 33 for 175 yards, where that guy's been 250 plus, since like week 8, week 9, but no running game. None. They rushed for
Non-existent.
38 yards. 38 yards rushing. I mean, Baltimore's defense, if anybody's asking, this defense wins championships. Boy, I'm telling you, watch this. I mean, yeah, Nico Collins had 5 catches on 10 targets for 68 yards. But, I mean, other than that, I mean, what was really – I didn't see anything much that stood out. And then you got it on the
Nothing
other side.
stood
You talk
out.
about, Lamar Jackson only threw for 152 yards. But 2 of those were touchdowns. The likely touchdown, that was nice. That kid's going to be
nice.
good. That kid's going to be good, but
I think he's going to get number 1 tight end money soon.
You think so? Yeah. But look how many yards they rushed for. It was like 240 or something like that. Against Houston, you knew they were going to run the ball, but and it was so funny. It took them so long to get a spy. It seemed like it was in the third quarter, or late in the second quarter, before they finally started spying on Lamar Jackson. the guy, and he had one really good ball fake too on somebody. So,
Yeah.
and it was nice to see Dalvin Cook get a little time. He had 8 carries for 23 yards. I mean, how quickly you fall as a running back, man. It
Yeah.
seemed like 2 years ago he wanted 10, 10 million a year, and now look at him, he's just begging to get cut. So, but
Yeah.
then again, though, we're not seeing much out of the receiving. I mean, look at Odell Beckham had one catch for 12 yards. Isaiah Likely 2 catches, 34 yards. Bateman 3 and 39. That's just they're telling you what they're going to do. What
Yep.
they're going to do is we're going to stop you on defense. We got the best two safeties tandem in the league. Our front four is going to get pressure on you, and you're not going to run the ball. Okay, so I mean give Houston the props for being just to make it to the division round. Not only just to, the number 2 pick in the draft to get into the playoffs was an amazing feat. To win the first game, another one. But when you're playing against probably the best all-around team, at least the best defensive team still in the playoffs, hey, hats off to him. I mean, 34-10. I didn't think it was really that bad, but boy, you were right though. How many balls did he sail in the second half? You didn't see that at all out of him. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And I think you brought up a key point that we talked about last week, right? We said Houston had to establish a run so they could open up the pass because we know they're a lethal passing team. The problem is when you know they're going to pass, well, we just drop more in coverage and we stop you from passing the ball. That's how that works. It's basic football, right? So, you said it, right? Singletary had 30-something yards. I mean, that's not establishing a run at all, right?
No.
So, and then, the game was relatively close in the beginning. Houston actually had a little bit of a lead twice, back and forth, right? And then like I said, the wheels fell off and Houston's in a passing script, which, you'd think it favors them, but they totally abandoned the run when they were in that passing script. And they just sat there and it's like, well, if I know you're going to pass, now I can blitz you, right? Pressure you, make you get the ball out quick, hope you make a mistake. Like you said, he was sailing passes the entire second half. But it also tells me that, I can just drop more guys in coverage and make you beat me. I'll make the rookie QB beat me. Good luck with that, right? Baltimore has one of the best defenses. I mean, if you look at their stats, they're 6th overall by stats-wise. Their defense, I think, is a little bit better than 6th. I think the Browns' defense was slightly overhyped. I think there's a couple other defenses that are a little overhyped. I think the Ravens haven't gotten the love on defense that they've deserved. But I know it's based off numbers, right? So that's fine. All well and good. But, they showed you they're a top 10 defense easily. This guy, Bob, you are getting banned for good. Unbelievable.
Yeah, no kidding.
See you, Bob. So I'm gonna kick it over to you for the Chiefs Buffalo while I go and permanently delete this guy off the Casino Gaming TV channel.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds great. Bob needs to go bye-bye. Yeah. So obviously, game of the weekend. You're talking about two guys that I think are going to go down as two competitors in the AFC for years to come. You saw what I mean. Allen is in a different breed, I think. To be his size and to be as fast as he is, and to be able to do what he does is shown. He just needs some help. I mean, that's James Cook has clutched up this year and gave him a running game at least. And so, that was good to see. But then again, I mean, Josh Allen, it's cold, right, in Buffalo. 26 of 39 for 186, but he carried the ball 12 times for 72 and 2 touchdowns. I mean, my gosh, averaging 6 yards a carry. Cook ran for 18 for 61. Kincaid played well. I like to see that young kid. I mean, I think, especially when Knox got hit pretty hard, got hurt one time, and to see Kincaid come in and get that. But, it came down to just two guys hammering it out. And I love those kind of football games. I I mean, that's what football. It reminds me of when you're a kid. And, we were watching. Like we said last week, like the Ice Bowl and stuff like that. It wasn't quite that bad. But the guy that kind of surprised me that for some reason he's got an extra kick when it comes to playoff times is Pacheco. I mean, the guy had 15 carries, 97 yards, and a touchdown. I mean, geez. I mean, give the guy and let him run. Kelsey
Yeah.
got back to old Kelsey form. Sending his love to his honey, and then his brother had the meme of the year that sitting in the box, drinking. I don't know if you got to see him out drinking with he went out was drinking with the Bills Mafia. He took a big giant drink out of a shot out of a bowling ball. I mean, that is clutch. I mean, that is a guy celebrating with the peeps. Doesn't matter if he's an Eagles guy or not, right? I mean, he was wearing Kansas City gear there to support his brother. I thought that was, but to go out pregame and tailgate with the peeps, I mean, they do that here in Seattle. I mean, we've had lots. Cortez Kennedy was one of my favorites. Cortez Kennedy was one of my favorite Seahawks players. He came to our tailgate one time and sat around and just talked with everybody, which was awesome. But you just look how spread out Kansas City is. I mean, you got Kelsey, Marquez Vasquez. Where's that guy been all year? He had 2
He
clutch
finally
catches
caught the
for
damn
62.
ball.
Yeah, and it was a nice catch. It wasn't like was some, ho-hum, right there.
Yeah, they were hard catches that he actually made,
Yeah.
which I watched him drop 3 of those against the Eagles, but
Yeah, right. Hardman and his, 2 fumbles. One of them was costly. We talked about that already, getting pushed out of the back of the end zone. But just a good overall back and forth. And to see the game come down to as a guy that was in, I drew the Buffalo Bills out of a hat when I was in college. The year Norwood missed that field goal. He makes that field goal. I win $1,700 back in the 1990, like 91, maybe 90, whatever that was. That was a lot of money to get back then, right? And we missed that.
Yeah.
I was so confident Buffalo was going to win. I threw a double kegger at my apartment, and I paid $280 because I was so sure they were going to win, and then that was my rent money because it was classic. But just a good back and forth game to watch, man. And it's this is the 7th time these guys have met. I mean, how awesome is that? And just to see them, you got to give KC props, man. Mahomes 6 straight times in the conference championship. I mean, that's clutch. I mean, there's guys that talk about being a GOAT. Hey, man, he sure is getting there. And if this is the last hurrah for Kelsey, there's a lot of rumblings around. Maybe he wants to, especially his little stint on SNL. People want him in the movies. I mean, he's a good-looking dude, I guess. I mean, especially when he's got a billionaire for a girlfriend. But
wish they would show her less, though.
Yeah, everybody says that. I mean, there's a lot more people watching because she's telling them to watch. My brother was just so mad. He kept calling me every time they'd show her and say, what are they doing there? It's like, hey,
so like 13 times, like, stop.
Yeah.
We know she's there. We get it.
Yeah. I mean, I would like to see more stuff from his brother and stuff like that because his brother.
Yeah, exactly. Like, show me Jason with his shirt off going into the crowd. And then, I don't know if you saw this too, right? Jason Kelsey is literally the GOAT. Like, he is just the true, like, people person, right? And I've had the pleasure of meeting him in person. Very, very nice guy. He works out at the same gym I do in the summer. So I've met him in person. Like, the most down-to-earth, no problem taking a picture with people, chit-chatting with you, anything, right? They're showing Taylor Swift and all this other garbage that I don't care about. He grabbed a girl from the stands, right, who had a message for Taylor and brought her up. He carried her over the seats to get Taylor the message, right? They don't show that, right? They don't show Jason Kelsey with his shirt off, looking like a buffoon out there, but like a legend, right? So, it is what it is. whatever. Taylor Swift's got to be in the Super Bowl, right? Because they got to keep showing her, keep drumming up the thing. So I guess Kansas City wins next week or this weekend,
Yeah,
just so
there's a
they can
lot of
have
people that
her.
are saying that, right? There's a lot of
Yeah,
people that are
yeah,
actually saying that, right? And but I
yeah.
mean,
I know.
we joke about it, but there's people that seriously think, it's funny because they'll joke around and say, "Oh, it's rigged, it's rigged, it's rigged." They just want such and such. Well, now's the time. I mean, if it comes back and there's some shady calls in this game, there'll be such an uproar because people will know why, right?
Yeah,
Sometimes it's just, they want team A against team B, but this is going to come down to who's going to watch the. Could you imagine if she was doing the halftime show? How crazy would that be? Oh my
yeah.
god!
The
Thank
rig that
God
would
she's
be.
not. No kidding.
Right?
Yeah,
Well,
but
now they
no,
got
seriously.
Usher, who hasn't released a song in years, but
Yeah, no kidding. But get back to the game. I mean, I love just the way that Buffalo had long, you know, 13 plays, 12 plays, 11 plays. I mean, I really like 16 plays, but then they missed the field goal at the end, right? But just to see that kind of good old fashioned football in the cold, I mean, it was obviously, game of the week, I thought. I mean, we'll talk about the, the Green Bay San Francisco game in a second, but to really, I mean, when I was sitting there and I was watching it, and I was actually jumping up and down and like getting excited for a game that my team's not even in, but I was just such a fan of the ambiance of that game. I mean, I hope there's more of those between those two quarterbacks because it reminds me of the Peyton Manning and the Brady
yeah,
combination type routine. You know what I mean? Both
100%.
guys are going to be Hall of Famers when you get done. I mean, I think so. And you sit back and you look at that and say, well, there you go. One play. And that's what we said. Remember what we said? It was like, it's going to come down to one play. And it came down to one play, you know?
Yep, it did.
But
That's,
but they
I
showed
mean,
how he
that,
lined up on that field goal. You saw that, right? He lined up dead center on that field goal. And when he was kicking pregame, he was kicking clear to the left side and watching it bank back over. That's why I was like, man, why the heck didn't you do that to end the game? So
yeah, I don't. I mean, Tyler Bass has the wide right call has been made a few times on him in clutch
yeah,
situations. I'm not going to spend too much time going over that game because I think he did a great job going over it, and I agree with what you said. It was a great game.
just
Those
want
two battling are like it's one of my favorite battles in all of football. Right at this
yeah,
point, it's the Mahomes and the Allen matchup. I do wish Joe Burrow was healthy. I think the AFC has some great quarterback matchups, especially when you get to
yeah,
playoff time. Right, get Justin Herbert in the playoffs once, get him a coach. Right, get a little bit more supporting cast. I'd love to see him duke it out with these guys. But it's a great matchup. And I think we're gonna have an even better matchup between Mahomes and Lamar this weekend. I think that's gonna
yeah.
be, very, very fun to watch. But yeah, I agree with what you said on that game. And again, won't beat it into the ground. We'll go over to Green Bay and San Francisco. I was actually excited for this game. I think it was a dud overall, personally. San Francisco's offense looked absolutely anemic the entire game. They looked atrocious. And I'm not saying that because I don't like San Francisco. I'm saying that because the stats say that, right? They
Yeah.
did not look that good. I'm not going to say Green Bay's defense played that well because I don't think Green Bay's defense played that well. They played good. They didn't play like if Green Bay's defense would have played the same way they played the Cowboys, Green Bay would have won that game by 2 touchdowns against San Francisco, even. But they didn't play that well, and they let San Francisco just sit there, sit there, sit there, and then finally win a game. I know that people are saying, "Oh, Green Bay's kicker missed the kick." The guy, I don't know how he's even an NFL kicker. If you look back at
Amen.
his college stats are atrocious. Like he was 70% as a field goal kicker in college. Like that's
Yeah.
terrible. Give me a ball and go. I'll go outside. I guarantee I kick better than 70%, even from 40 yards. All right. Yes, I did play soccer, so yeah, I can kick a ball. All right. But I mean, they gotta get somebody else. This Carlson dude's a clown. So
Agreed.
he's probably the most hated guy in Green Bay right now. But
Oh,
it is what it is when you get a garbage kicker that you're relying on in crunch time. That's what you're going to get. The 49ers, though, right? I want to talk more about the 49ers because Green Bay had a great year, great season. Great win against Dallas. I think, but we both expected this, right? We both expected a letdown from them in this game. We both said it last week. We don't think they're going to play the same way they played against Dallas. Again, if they would have played the same way, we'd be talking about them playing this weekend. But they didn't. I don't even think they played half as good. If I'm honest with you, they didn't. They didn't look that good. But San Francisco did not look good at all. Their offense, like they didn't look like they knew what they were doing out there. I mean, the first quarter, Brock Purdy couldn't hit a receiver to save his life.
Sailing,
McCaffrey was getting
sailing.
stopped, but McCaffrey was still getting his, but he was getting stopped because the offensive line was not getting penetration on the front four for Green Bay. Um, Again, Purdy was not throwing the ball well. I know Debo got hurt. Everyone's Debo got hurt. That's why. No, that's not why Purdy had a bad game because Debo got hurt. All right, I get you lose your number one receiver. It happens all the time. All right, I can't hear that as an excuse as to why you had a bad game. That's not the reason why you had a bad game. You're still not throwing to guys. If you watch the game back, I actually took a look at this after the fact. Brock Purdy missed quite a few open receivers. And the reason why I even noticed this stuff is because I was looking back at the Jalen Hurts tapes because everyone's saying how bad Jalen was with missing open receivers. And now, for some reason, like when I watch the tape, it's like a glaring thing to me. It's like there's an open receiver. There was numerous instances where Brock Purdy missed guys who were 10 yards from any defender for an easy first down, and he missed them, and it cost them, and it ended up making them not get the first down. Um, Overall game, I don't think it was that good. San Francisco's defense looked all right. They stopped Jordan Love. Jordan Love's been balling out. They stopped him for the most part. They couldn't stop Aaron Jones running the ball, but
Nope.
because he went off. But they did what they needed to do to win. Interested to see the Debo news. I think they're keeping that very, very tight to the vest right now. I fully expect him to play. They're calling it a shoulder injury. I thought it was more of a concussion when it happened, but then they reported a shoulder. So I fully expect him to play. How will he play? I don't know if he'll be limited at all or not. But I fully expect him to play. You have any differing thoughts on that game, or was I just watching a different game than you? Or
Well, no, I think you're pretty much right on. I mean, let's start with the Packers side of the ball. I mean, Jordan Love, guy's been balling out. All of a sudden, he's 21 for 34 for 194 yards. I was expecting more from that kid than that. I think his over-under number was like 230. You know,
yep,
I was expecting more from him, especially after the Dallas butt kicking that they gave Dallas. But then again, now it comes back and says, well, was Dallas real? You know what I mean? That's the question. Aaron Jones went on a tear the last 4 or 5 weeks. I mean,
yeah, he
I
did.
agree with you. He had 18 carries for 108 yards. It looked like I don't know why they didn't let him run the ball more. I mean, he was running through guys hard, and then to see Romeo Dobbs put 3 weeks in a row where he showed promise, but there was nothing from anybody else. I mean, Christian Watson again, 1 catch for 11 yards. Man, he better watch himself. He's going to find himself a bust, when he was supposed to be the man. But then let's go over to the 49ers side of the ball. I mean, what can you say? CMC was the man. We called that. That was a lock and load for us at over
Yep.
86 rushing yards. That guy runs so hard for a little guy, but like you said, that dude's jacked. 2 touchdowns,
Yeah.
over almost 6 yards a carry. Still had he had 7 catches for 30 yards. I mean, that guy's an all-around easy place for Brock Purdy to put the ball. Now, I was shocked to find out he actually threw for 252 yards. That was right around what the over-under number was for Brock Purdy. I didn't think that he really threw that many yards, but you get back.
He had a couple long passes, I think, that inflate that
Kittles.
number. I mean, I'm not
Yeah.
taking away from Kittle. You called Kittle last week. You said
Yeah.
Kittle was going to have a good game, right? He did.
Yep.
I said Jennings was going to have a good game. Jennings put up 60 yards himself, right? His over-under was 14 and a half.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I get Debo going out helps that. But, I mean, they were getting production from guys that, I guess you wouldn't really necessarily think, right? Ayuk, he was there.
Yeah.
He didn't do a whole
3
lot.
catches.
Kittle was great.
Yeah.
You know, But yeah, Brock Purdy, it was a surprising 250. I'll be honest with you, it was.
Yeah.
He
I
could
mean,
have.
it just, I mean,
Imagine he wouldn't have sailed so many balls though. He could have threw for 350 if he wouldn't have sailed so many passes.
yeah, agree with it. I agree with it. I was a little concerned with the 49ers defensive though. You know, I mean, you sit
Very
back and look at
concerned.
it, no sacks, none. As much money as you
Barely
got on
any
there with Nick
pressure.
Bosa, yeah. I mean, look at Fred Warner, who I think is probably the best middle linebacker. I mean, if you can call him a middle linebacker, right? But to only have 4 tackles, that guy's got to be. I mean, he's going to have to step it up against Detroit. I mean, he is. I mean,
Yeah.
Detroit opened some eyes up. But when you're sitting here and you're looking at that Chase Young, 2 tackles, I mean, and then, you know, miss field goal, special teams. You can't have that in the playoffs, man. That's
No.
that's one
And
thing.
I'm glad you brought up special teams because San Francisco special teams looked very, very concerning. That one punt return that Green Bay
Yeah,
had, they should have scored on that and they didn't.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I mean, that punt return, I mean, I don't know where they were going. Like, I'm not sure what their downfield routes looked like to get down the field, but it looked like they were all on one side of the field, and none of them decided to come back over to the other side when the punt returner cut. They all just kept running forward. I mean, he basically went untouched into the red zone.
yeah, Well,
That was bad. But the defense,
yeah,
I mean, you brought it up. I said their defense didn't look good. Their defense is concerning because, like, I know the Packers have been, playing very well recently. I don't think their offense played that great. But if the 49ers defense expects to beat the Lions playing like that, they got another thing coming. They're going to lose by double digits if they play like that. I don't
yeah.
care how many points they put up. They're not going to be able to stop the Lions.
Well, especially if the Lions run the ball. I mean, we'll get to that in the next game. But I mean, shoot. I mean, where do you stop them right now? These swing patterns that they're doing. I mean, if you can stop McCaffrey, this offense is going to be stagnant. Now,
Yeah.
Debo's shoulder, it's a re-injure from a shoulder that he had earlier in the year. So that's what's a little
Okay.
disconcerting. But you and I
Yeah.
both know you shoot that up with Toradol and you take some
Be
other
back out
pills,
there.
he's going to be out there because he has to.
Yeah.
Because worst case scenario, you do a jet sweep with him. Maybe he can't catch the ball, but you run some jet sweeps with him. That's going to open some stuff up for Ayuk and Jennings, and
Yeah.
Kittles. I still think Kittles is crazy right now, man. That guy is just flat out balling.
Yeah,
You
he is.
hear all the talk about Kelsey and everybody else. That guy just quietly this year has just put up some numbers.
He doesn't get the love he deserves. He really
Amen.
doesn't. And I feel like it's been like that for quite a few years. I know people say, he's always top five, top five. But, like, they put him and in the back of the top five, right? Which
Yeah,
I don't necessarily agree with, right? I can understand the Kelsey, right? I get that. I get Mark Andrews. I get it,
yeah,
right? Laporta this year, all right, no problem. But, I mean, Mark Andrews hasn't really been playing. Kittle, I think, has had a better year stat-wise than
he
Kelsey, if
has.
I'm not mistaken.
He
Yeah.
he's had the best stats out of all tight ends, and he's still
Yeah.
it's like he's a second class citizen. It's like I
The
feel
other
sorry for
thing
the guy,
that
but
isn't quantified by a lot of people when they talk about Kittle is his ability to block. He's a
yep,
great fundamental blocker, which opens up holes for McCaffrey nonstop.
yep,
So love me some
yeah,
Kittle, love me some CMC. The rest of the 49ers I could care less about. Um, but all right, let's get to another game that I don't know. This to me this score line this score line is the opposite of the Ravens Houston score line. I thought that game was close, ended up in a blowout. This game I didn't think it was that close at all, but the score line says it was relatively close. I know Tampa Bay kind of threw some, good passes here and there, and they ended up scoring and stuff. So good for Baker. Whatever, he's going to get his bag after this year. I thought the Lions dominated this game, but the defense looked like hot garbage at the end. The whole second
Yeah.
half, their defense looked like hot garbage. It started at the end of the first half when they let Tampa Bay go down and score that touchdown to tie the game at the half, and then ever since that, their defense just looked like they didn't really want to play almost, right? They weren't doing a whole lot, but their offense is just so powerful. It's unbelievable. I mean, to have the two-headed monster of Montgomery and Gibbs. I know Montgomery's older, but when you have those two guys, like they're both very dynamic, but they're dynamic in different ways, right? Montgomery gives you that like weird burst of speed, but then tough to bring down. And then Gibbs gives you that shifty guy who can catch balls out of the backfield, make you miss and make you look silly, run right
Yeah.
through a gap. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I've been following Jahmyr Gibbs since he was, in the like preseason. I thought he was going to be the clear-cut number one back for
So
Detroit.
did
That's
I.
why I drafted him so high in fantasy. And I was kicking myself the first few weeks. It did turn around, obviously. But I mean, these two guys, like in fantasy points and other things, these guys are putting up 20 plus a week each, not combined, each. These two guys
Yeah.
are eating. And then you add Amon-Ra St. Brown, who has not gotten any love at all this year, left out of the Pro Bowl, left out of people leave him out of their top 10 receivers, even. And I'm like, you're out of your mind. He's top five. I understand you want to name drop some guys like Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, rightfully so. But Amon Ra is in your top five, and if not, well, I don't know what to tell you. Dude's been balling.
Yeah.
Laporta's the best rookie tight end season anyone's ever had. And Jared Goff is looking absolutely stellar out there. And the offensive
Oh,
line is blocking incredibly, I must say.
smooth. Smooth. Yeah. I mean, let's get back to the stats. I mean, you seriously, when you look at the Lions, man, playing at home, those guys, it's going to be tough for them this weekend to come out to the West Coast and play in San Francisco. That
Mm-hmm.
home cooking they've had the last couple of weeks is just amazing. But here's Jeff Goff. I mean, come on, he was a throw-in because they wanted to get rid of some of the salary, right? Thrives for 287 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, Laporta on a bad wheel had 9 catches on 11 targets for 65 yards. I mean, what a stud. I mean, we talked about him last week. Gibbs covering the lock and load on that, but easily. We had that last week. Well, when you sit down though, and you say, well, what's the Achilles heel? Well, obviously it was the defensive backs you know for the Detroit Lions. Baker Mayfield threw 349 yards and 3 touchdowns. I mean,
Yep.
Mike Evans was clearing everybody out. He had 8 receptions on 12 targets for 147 yards. I mean, talk about
Yeah.
a guy that just came out and said, hey, I'm giving you all I got. And to see that guy do that, I mean, they didn't run the ball that well. I mean, that's another thing that I was kind of a little worried about. I mean, they didn't even break 100 yards rushing. But you can't when you're losing like that. You've got to throw, 41 attempts and only 26 receptions. But, boy, he was beating them deep, though. And good
Yeah,
thing
he
for
was.
Baker, man. I mean, is he a $40 million quarterback? No. But is he at $25 million like Geno Smith? Yeah. I'd pay
Oh,
Baker
yeah.
Mayfield $25 million. If they don't want him, bring him to Seattle. I'd let him a year or two here until we find a decent guy in the draft. But it just goes to show you that that defense can be beat. I think this is going to be a game where there's going to be some points scored on both sides of the ball. I mean, it's going to be
Yeah.
tough to stop. I mean, talk about the balanced attack on both sides. Offensively. I mean, you got CMC on one side against the dual-headed monster on the other side. Receivers are about the same. If I think I'd give the edge to CMC coming out of the backfield and receiving, but I'm going to give the edge to the receivers, to the Lions, with Brown, Laporta. I mean, Kittle and Laporta. I mean, that's a matchup right there. Who's going to have more
Yeah.
to give to the team? I mean, when you sit back and we start preparing for this game and we're looking, Those are the standpoints I think it's where it's going to stand out. And then again, this could be another special teams game. You know what I
Yep.
mean? When you sit back and look at that and saying, "Wow," there's so many coaches that say you got to win 2 out of 3. What are you going to win? Offense, defense, or special teams? Give me 2 out of 3, and you're probably going to win the game. Somebody's going to have to clutch up here, I think, in the backfield in on both defensive backsides and make some plays. Now, I know San Francisco had a couple, picks last week. So did the Lions. The Lions had 2 picks. That one guy that was running around after he caught the ball and everybody's yelling at him, lay down, lay down. It's like, what are you trying to do? You're not going
Yeah.
anywhere. Keep running in a circle. So, it should be interesting to see what happens on this game. I mean, I think the lines are pretty close to what I thought they would be coming into this game. So I think Debo's going to be a big question mark. If he plays and he can give 70%, that's better than anybody else they got that can give 100%. Ayuk needs to make a statement. He really does. I think this is the game where he's going to get a chance. If Debo comes back, and there'll be some, and you're talking about, I think, the best offensive play caller right now, with San Francisco, just to be able to mix things up, you know what I mean, and have the ability to do that. Playing at home is going to be big too, and I think, Detroit, we'll talk about it and who our picks are the next round here, but it's going to be tough. I mean, but I ain't taking nothing away from Detroit, man. That was a good game to watch. I think the score doesn't do it justice. I mean, there was some garbage time there. I mean, let's be honest, at the end of that game. But still, I mean, kudos to, Dan Campbell. How can you not like a coach better than that guy, man? Man, the guy looks like
we know John doesn't.
Yeah, exactly.
John's just a hater. No, Dan Campbell, listen, when he tells you he comes in with 2, I don't even know what the large Starbucks coffees are called, Venti, Grande, I don't care, whatever. He comes in 2 of those, black with 2 shots of espresso. He comes in 2 of those come on. And, that dude's a legend. I think he's great. And I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And I guess we'll get to that game. Because for me, that game is the more exciting game than this game. I'll be honest with you. I'm more excited to watch the 49ers-Lions game than I am to watch this game. Excited for this game, but not as excited as I am for the other game. So we got the Ravens and the Chiefs. Ravens are 3.5-point favorites, over under 44.5 in Baltimore at 3:00 on Sunday. You got the 1-seed Ravens, 3-seed Chiefs. We're here for Patty Mahomes' second ever road playoff game. I'll be honest with you here, okay? Be honest with you. I think the Bills gave the Ravens the script in this game. And the thing here is the Ravens have a better rushing offense than the Bills do. So on paper, to me, this looks pretty clear-cut what I'm going to go with here. However, you do have Patrick Mahomes, right? You got Andy Reid on the other side. You got Harbaugh on the other side, but Andy Reid is far superior. From, quarterback perspective, I know Lamar's the MVP, right? I get that. Patty Mahomes is Patty Mahomes, though. He's clutch when he needs to be. So, I'm relatively toss-up on the quarterback. Rushing offense for the Ravens, obviously, they're one of the best rushing offenses in the league. They're number one. Actually, they're not one of the best. They are the best rushing offense. And, the Chiefs' rushing defense brought it up last week. They're middle of the pack. And you saw what the Bills did to them. I think the Ravens are going to run all over the Chiefs team. The thing is, I think the Chiefs are going to be able to pass against this Ravens defense, because their defense, from a passing perspective, they're good, right? They got the tandem at safety, very, very good, right?
Yep.
But, Kelsey's going to find his holes, right? He finds his holes in every defense, okay? The problem is going to be who's also going to step up, right? Is Rice going to step up? I think he will. He's been having a great postseason, great year altogether. Marquez Valdes-Scantling came back last week and actually caught some passes. Shocker, right? I think Hardman doesn't play very much in this game, right? I think he's just kind of going to get the back seat. You're going to see not Christian Watson, Justin Watson and Noah Gray get some more time in there. I think you made a good point earlier with Pacheco. He runs hard. That guy is so hard to bring down because he runs like he's mad at the world. Like he's stomping on the earth when he runs. So
Yeah.
this
Baby beast
game,
mode almost baby beast
yeah,
mode. That I was
literally,
watching that
yeah,
kid where he gets that initial hit and he still keeps his legs going. You know,
yeah,
they might stop him, but his legs are still going. I mean, and
yeah. And he's fighting for yards. He's always falling
yeah,
forward too, which is one
yeah,
thing that they try to teach, but a lot of running backs don't implement it. I feel like, but he's always falling forward. It's
yeah.
unbelievable. I'll get your thoughts before I do make my pick. With this game, I will say, I think again the Ravens are going to run all over this Chiefs defense. I do think Spagnuolo is going to fix the Chiefs defense in the running game a little bit, not a lot, right? There's not much you can do in a week, but I do think they will be better than they were against the Bills. Now, granted, the Ravens are significantly better at the running back position, and also Lamar Jackson's legs are a little bit better than Josh Allen's legs. Not by much, but they are better. Um, it's going to be a very interesting game. I think this game is going to come down to, we said it last week. I feel like we said it every week. One key play. I feel like this game is going to be one key stop late in the fourth quarter. Who makes that stop? I will tell you after you go. But I think it's going to come down to a late game. You know, special teams wise, these teams are very similar, right? Justin Tucker and Butker, two of the best kickers in the league. I don't think you have to worry about those guys missing field goals. I mean,
No,
Tucker's automatic from 65 and in. Butker's
yeah,
pretty automatic from 60 and in. So, you know, I think it'll be good. What are your thoughts?
yeah. I think I love this matchup. I do. I think this is what everybody wanted outside of Buffalo. To be able to watch this. You talk about two guys that play the quarterback position, completely different. Completely different. You got a guy that just straight out wants to throw the ball and do it magically. And on the other side, you got the guy that says, hey, I like to throw a little bit. I can throw it long, I can throw it short, but I want to juke everybody out. I mean, he is just like, for us that are in our 50s, Michael Vick, Randall Cunningham for the original, the OG of, running the ball.
Yep.
I was so frustrated last week watching him against the Texans because nobody was spying him. I think Kansas City's going to throw a spy up on him. It might be a safety they
They
bring
didn't
in.
spy Josh Allen
Yeah,
because Gay was
yeah,
hurt.
yeah. Well, that's the problem. They're hurting him. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I think that you put Kansas City's receivers against Baltimore's. I'm taking Kansas City's all day. Okay.
100%.
And so now the question is who's the running game? Pacheco rushes for 100 yards. They win this game. If he rushes for 100 yards, they'll win this game. Because I think if they can just set up any type of run game. Now, if he gets 45 yards, and I agree with you, Hardman won't see the field after 2 fumbles last week. No way.
No.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire will rush the ball a lot more than he will, right? And so, and I think, they get any help from anybody else outside of Rice and outside of Kelsey, I think that's going to be the separator. Now let's flip to the defensive side of the ball. You said it. I mean, whoever says that now, yards wise or points wise, Baltimore's defense is tough. You saw what they did last weekend. They were like really hanging it on there. And so when we sit back and say, exactly what Badger's saying here, man, it's going to be one in the trenches. But I think if they can keep Lamar under 65 yards rushing, I think that's going to be huge. I mean, they can still run the ball with Gus Edwards. Is Mark Andrews going to play? They're setting it up to have him come back, but I don't know if you want him to. You got a likelihood that kid's been playing well. Give him a shot. I mean, Andrews went out, like week 8 or 9?
Yeah.
So, I think it's going to come down to, I agree with you. I think it's going to come down to something in the fourth quarter. I don't know if it'll be a stop. I think it might be something like, an interception or something that you sit back and you go, oh my gosh, why did they do that? Right? Or a
Hmm.
fumble, like somebody fumbles like Hartman did. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when I look at this game and I'm looking at it, I just think Baltimore thinks they're a little more invincible than Kansas City does. The way they perceive themselves a little bit better. But Kansas City's got the track record. 6 straight years. We know what we're doing. We know how to play. It was great to see him win a road game, so everybody quit talking about that. I was so tired of him saying, Patty Mahomes never won a road game. Who
Yep.
cares? The guy knows how to play. He's gonna get him. He will put him in the right position. Now, whether guys make plays, that's gonna be the question, right? So the biggest thing it gets back to me is, what does that mean? There's a half a point difference that I might even look at this. That 3.5. If it was 3, boy, I'd probably take Baltimore and minus the 3. I think that half point might make a big difference. Baltimore still might win, but I think Kansas City covers on here. I'm taking Kansas City plus 3.5.
All right. You're taking Kansas City plus 3.5. Jim asked what the weather looks like in Baltimore. It looks like there is a chance of some rain on Sunday afternoon in Baltimore. Um, Looking at it right now, it looks like about 46 and a chance of rain. So, weather people, we'll see.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm kidding.
so I went against Kansas City last week, right? And they showed me why I shouldn't go against them. But I'm going to have to go against them again this weekend. Okay. I understand your point with the 3.5. 3.5, it's a number, right? If I was betting Baltimore, I'd
Yep.
buy it to 3, right? I wouldn't bet it
I
at three and a
totally
half.
would.
I'd
Yep.
buy it to 3.
Yep.
So from that perspective, I would lean the 3.5 on Kansas City, but I'd be more comfortable betting it -3 for Baltimore.
Yep.
I think Baltimore wins this game for the sole reason that they're just going to run the ball down Kansas City's throat, right? I mean, we said it already. Josh Allen and James Cook did it all last weekend, and they didn't throw the ball that well last weekend, right? I mean, Diggs had 3 catches, okay? Knox and Kincaid had, I think, 4 and 5 catches, something like that. Um,
Yeah. 5
they
total
weren't
between
really
the two of them.
throwing. Yeah,
Yep.
they weren't really doing much with the ball against that Kansas City defense. Now, do I think Baltimore's going to throw a passing clinic on Kansas City? Absolutely not. Okay, absolutely not. Um, but they're going to run the ball, and they're going to run that ball right down their throats. Kansas City will be slightly better defending the run. Hopefully, like you said, they put a spy in there or something to try to stop Lamar. If they don't, Lamar's going to run for 200 yards himself.
Yep.
Um, so in this game, it's tough. I like Baltimore to win. To cover, I'm going to say the 3.5. If you put a gun to my head and told me I had to bet 3.5, I'd probably bet Kansas City at the 3.5. If it was 3, I'd probably lean Baltimore. People are going to say, well, it's half a point. You're splitting hairs. That half a point is significant. Okay.
There's a reason
Um,
why Vegas makes a ton of money. It's on that half
exactly.
point.
There's 3 key numbers in betting. All right. It's in football, especially, but 2 of them are more important than the others. 3 and 7 are the 2 numbers that are very, very important in betting. Um, I like the Ravens in this one. I think they're just going to run the ball down their throats. I don't think this game's going to be a very high scoring affair. I think this game's going to be pretty low scoring, if you ask me honestly, because I think there's going to be a lot of running the ball, which is going to just suck time off the clock.
Yeah.
So I like Baltimore in this game. I do. Not because I don't like Kansas City. I think Kansas City has the pedigree. Obviously, you can't argue with that. Andy Reid, Patty Mahomes. They're going to find a way to play well in this game. I just think Baltimore is going to eke it out at the end. Again, wouldn't be shocked to see a Justin Tucker 55-yard walk-off field goal. Wouldn't be shocked by any stretch. But I like Baltimore in this game.
There we go. So are you going to take the over/under? Are you going to touch that?
I'd probably touch the under, but I don't bet unders because life's too short to bet unders. So
Yeah.
wouldn't touch it. But I would lean the under in this game, especially if it's raining. It's going to be tough to pass the ball in the rain. So I see a lot of rushing the ball. And again, going off last week, what Kansas City did with the run, I mean, they did shut it down in the second half. But if the Bills could complete a drive in the first half, that game could have been out of hand from the start. So I like the Ravens in this game.
If Kansas City gets any pressure and can keep him in the box or as close as they can,
Yeah,
that's what might be the deciding factor right there.
that's a
On the
big
other side,
if though,
100%.
because
And
they
on the
got
other
zero
side,
pressure on Josh Allen, and I think the
zero.
Ravens O line
Chris
is
Jones,
better
yeah.
than
I,
Buffalo's O line.
Yeah, we were expecting more out of Chris Jones last week than what we got. To be honest with you, I
Yeah,
think when we were talking about that, but I think if they can, just keep that down, and if Patty Mahomes turns the ball over, game over.
yeah.
And I don't think he can throw an interception and have him win this game. I really don't. I think he's got to
No,
take care of the
he's got
ball.
to play like a perfect game.
Yeah,
Honestly, he has to play
yeah,
a perfect game because he doesn't have that. Like he really doesn't have those receivers anymore that can bail him out. Right. In the past, he's had Tyreek, he's had Kelsey. You have multiple guys to go to bail you out. This year, he doesn't really have that. Yes, Rice has looked very good as of late. He still has Kelsey, but Rice is not Tyreek Hill. And
yep.
I mean, Marquez Valdez Scantling caught 3 balls last week. I mean, he might not catch another ball the rest of the year because 3 catches in one game for him is nuts. He usually drops 3, not catches 3. So,
But
you know,
have you seen what the anytime touchdown for him is like plus 1,000? Why
yeah,
not take a $10 bet and throw it on? It's
it's
just
worth a
insane.
little
Yeah,
sprinkle, worth a
yeah,
little sprinkle.
yeah,
And I love the Isaiah Likely touchdown line at 420.
yeah. 420.
I've been
Yeah.
hitting him to score a touchdown all season long, and he's done it quite often. Um, I do like that line quite a bit. So, I guess we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Um, it's going to be a good game, but
Yep.
let's
For
go
sure.
into the game that I think is going to be a better game. Not sure if you agree or not, but 49ers and the Lions. 49ers are 7-point favorites. I hit the Lions. I was texting you as soon as the 49ers game was over that I hit the Lions at 7. I hit them on the money line as well. I expected that line to move. It didn't. So
Yeah.
I know why it hasn't moved, but I'll get into that later. Over under 50 and a half in San Fran Sunday night. What are your thoughts on that game while I look up what the weather looks like in San Francisco?
Well, I think right off the bat, 7 points. That's a lot considering how San Francisco played last weekend and the way that the Lions have played. I think they've shown that, the 49ers can be beat through the air. I mean, look what they gave up. I think you're talking about two teams that can do a lot of the same things, and it's going to come down to execution. My question is did that game against Green Bay wake San Francisco up? You know what I mean? Shake the cobwebs out. We got to scare. We got to play better. And I think you saw that because people were saying stuff to Brock, saying, "Hey man, settle down, get into the spot, find it." You know, it's so nice to have a security blanket like CMC. I mean,
Yeah,
kudos to him. So
that was the
when I look
biggest.
at
That was the biggest pickup. Big shout out to the 49ers front office for being able to
huge,
grab him for next to nothing.
yeah,
I know they're
huge,
paying him, but like the draft capital they gave up to get him was
yeah,
minimal.
yep, yep. And that was surprising, right? So, I think, Aiden Hutchinson's going to have a game here. He's going to have to put pressure. He's going to have to, he's the heart and soul of that defensive line. He's going to have to get around. Trent Williams, he looked old last week. I mean, he was tired sitting on the bench. I think penalties, were stacking up. So I mean, he's going to play on the opposite. Aiden Hutchinson's going to play on the right side anyway, so left side for him. But they're going to need to get some pressure on Purdy because he was shrinking in the pockets, and so
Yeah, he was.
I think it was a little scared. Now, if this 7 number is like, man, you can tell the guys in Vegas threw up this number because that's about the right number. Now, I think that the Lions are going to win the game straight up? I don't think so. Could they? Sure as hell they could. I mean, if Goff can throw the ball like he's been throwing the ball and protect the ball, I think that's going to be huge. So, but when it gets down to picking on this one, I think San Francisco is going to win the game, but I'm taking the points and the Lions at 7. I wish it was 7.5. I'd probably buy it up to 7.5. You know what I mean? Just to be able to get that extra half point. But I think this is going to be a fun game. I think this is going to. You're right. I think this is the game of the weekend. I think this might even be more fun than the Super Bowl, to be honest with you. Once we look at it in the end,
I think so too. Honestly, I wish these two
yeah.
teams could play in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and I just I love to see. There's no team right now that's rallying around their coach any better than Dan Campbell. I mean, he's got those
They
guys.
have the whole country rallying around him.
Yeah. Well, look who's on the sidelines every weekend. You got big name people from Eminem to Herman Moore to
Calvin Johnson's there.
Calvin Johnson. Yeah, I mean, there was all
you got
kinds,
legends in the building.
Well, they were even saying, people were asking in Detroit that, hey, let Barry suit up. Yes,
literally.
Yeah, he's as old as I am, man. He's fatter than me even. So it's like, but again, this is going to come down to where it's going to be a game that we both are going to sit back and say, oh man, that's the game to watch, right? Where were you when you were watching that game? I think this could be one where you better get your stuff early because you just don't know what's going to happen, right? I really feel that. But I'm taking the Lions just for record, taking them plus the points. So.
Yep. Well, you already know what I was on this game. I already said what I'm on this game, but you knew last week what I was on this game. It's the Lions plus the points. I really did see this line going the opposite direction. Did think it was going to come down more. I figured there was going to be more people betting to make this line move a little bit. But I've been looking at it, right? The percentage of bets on this game, there's a difference, but the amount of money bet on this game is relatively close. So from a betting perspective, right, there's less bets on the Lions, but there's more money coming in to balance that out, right? So do you care about sports betting on the sharps are hitting the Lions for the most part? It's not actual betting advice. It's just what the lines are saying. I like the Lions in this game plus the 7. I like them to win this game outright. Outright from the Lions. I know Jen's going to watch this back and want to take a bet with me on this game. Jen, you got my phone number. Hit me up. I'm taking the 7 points in our bet because if I don't take the 7 points, you're not going to let me take it later. So if you want the bet, Jen, it's for the 7 points. If you want the money line bet, I need to be paid out on my other bets first. There's other bets I'm still waiting to cash from Jen. But anyway, here's why I think the Lions are going to win this game, okay? You started bringing it up when we were talking about the Lions as a whole. Offensively, right, this game to me offensively is like a gem. Why? Deebo Samuel, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Great matchup of 2 number 1 wide receivers, right? Your tight ends, you got Kittle and Laporta. Great matchup there. Your running backs, you got CMC on one side and you got the 2-headed monster on the other side, okay? Great matchup. after you get past their wide receiver 1, right? We're talking wide receiver 2. Everyone's high on Ayuk. Ayuk's had a shit year. You can't tell me otherwise. He's not been good this year, right? But
Yep.
Josh Reynolds has been playing decent, okay,
Yeah.
for the Lions. So Josh Reynolds and Ayuk, they're 50-50, right? I mean, there's not much you can say there. Then you got Jennings for the 49ers, Jamison Williams. Jennings had a good week last week, right? I said he was going to. He was my lock and
Yep.
load last week. He cashed that in the first quarter. But Jamison Williams has been coming on strong. This game is going to come down to San Francisco's defense because San Francisco's defense is incredible if they play, unlike last week because they didn't play that well last week, right? I do think they're going to play better, but the Lions can just put up points. The 49ers can put up points too, but what it's going to come down to for me is Goff has that experience in the playoffs, right? He's got the whole city of Detroit counting on him. And his team wants to play for him. They want to play for the coach, right? The 49ers were here last year. They got smoked by the Eagles. I know Brock Purdy went out, but still, they got smoked. I anticipate not him getting hurt again, okay? Not wishing ill on Brock Purdy. But I think Hutchinson is going to be in Purdy's face a lot. A lot. I think the Lions win this game outright.
Outright.
I
Wow.
see a 31-27 score line on this game. I like the over in this game too. I think it's going to be – you have two decent defenses here, believe it or not. But the 49ers defense is stout, right? If you look at their stats as a whole.
Yep.
49ers defense, 8th overall. Lions defense, 19th. But the Lions defense has looked a little bit better than 19th, if you ask me. Again, against garbage time against Baker, they didn't look that good. They let Baker throw all over them. But I don't think Purdy is going to be able to throw all over them because Purdy suffers when he has his first look taken away. If you look at him, when his first read is his number one choice, great quarterback, when you take away his first read, his numbers go down the toilet. And I think the Lions are going to put enough pressure with C.J. Gardner-Johnson, with Brian Branch back there. I think they're going to take away his targets a little bit. They're going to confuse him. Hutchinson's going to come through. He's going to hit him a couple times. He's going to rattle his cage. Okay. Lions. Detroit. Win this game.
Right on. Well, you got any lock and loads for the week?
Yes, I do have some lock and loads. Okay. I'm going to go to the Baltimore Kansas City game first. Okay. Travis Kelce over 5.5 receptions.
Easy.
Not sure why the line's like that. I don't get it.
I saw that as well
all day long.
Yeah, I saw that as well. It's those two guys together. Those are the Thelma and Louise of that team.
Yeah.
They do everything together. I mean, how many times they got busted for showing up late because they're out partying together? I mean, those guys are going to will at least do what they can to be able to get it done. Yeah, that's a crazy line, 5.5. I'd take that all day, twice on Friday.
Yep. I also like, in that same game, I like Lamar to score a touchdown in that game. Rushing touchdown for Lamar, plus 105. I like that as well. Rushing touchdown or receiving, but he's not going to catch the ball. So rushing touchdown, I do like that there. But my lock and load on this game would be Kelce over 5.5 catches. I think that line is disrespectful. I think it should be at least 6.5. Because if you think about it this way, right? I already said Baltimore's defense looks really, really good, and they're just going to run the ball down the throat. Well, how does Kansas City best combat a good defense and a team that possesses the ball for a long period of time? They air raid them right out of the stadium, right? Yep. That's what they've done for the past few years. Mahomes is always looking at Kelce. It doesn't matter how many people he has on him. He's always looking at him. Over 5.5. Love that line.
Yeah, I saw that line too as well, and I was like, geez, that's crazy. And so, those are good. So one of the ones I'm looking at, and I haven't fully decided yet, but the two ones I'm looking at for this game, the San Francisco game, Zion St. Brown plus 140 or Laporta for plus 185. Whew. I
for a
mean, if
touchdown.
Laporta was, yeah, for just anytime touchdown, right?
Okay.
I think one of those two is gonna do it. I haven't decided yet. Depends on. I got to hear what's going on with Laporta's knee. I mean, he did
Mm-hmm.
sit out a couple of plays because he got hurt. Kittle's at 120. I mean, guy looked like he was untouchable last week. I mean, that's another one. How many yards is it for Gibbs again? I might ride that dog again for 3 weeks in a row.
Receiving or rushing?
Receiving.
22 and a half.
Yep, take that again. He had 40 last week. Take it again.
Yep.
Lock and load that,
I,
and then
on that game, on the
yep.
Lions game, my lock and load is Josh Reynolds over 2.5 receptions.
Yeah, yeah. He's plus 350
I mean,
on a touchdown.
Yeah, I don't mind a sprinkle there. I really don't. Same thing with Likely at 420. Don't mind a sprinkle there. But here I love this. I think I was saying in the pre-show to you, right? Jennings last week was my lock and loaded over 1.5 catches and over 14.5 yards. In these types of games, right? These guys who are the second and the third receivers are the ones who are usually going to get involved pretty early, or they get involved because the number one is covered, right? So, like, Amon-Ra's line is over 7.5 catches. Do I think he hits over that? Yes. Would I be shocked if he hits under it? No, right? Because he could put up 6 catches for 150 yards, right? It just depends on what kind of throws they're making to him. But a guy like Josh Reynolds, when Amon-Ra is getting double covered, Josh Reynolds is in single coverage. Half the time he's against a linebacker, right? In like a zone defense, he's against a linebacker. So I like him over 2.5 catches. I love that line. Also like Kittle over 4.5. Not my lock and load. Reynolds is my lock and load, but Kittle over 4.5. I do like that line quite a bit. Let's see. Gibbs's line is 3.5. I like it. I don't love it. I do like the yards more than I like the receptions. Laporta's line is because Jim's asking. Laporta's line is over 5.5. Again, you can buy these down on different books. So I'm just giving you what the actual line is. But yeah, Josh Reynolds is my lock and load this week in this game over 2.5 catches. You're reading Jen's text too.
Yeah, it's like way to go, Jen.
Yeah,
that's
right?
Classic. Yeah. What is it
you got any
for?
Lock and loads in the first game? Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm still looking over this one. I was just trying to figure out. Yeah, go back to the other one. Did I lose you? We might have lost Chris. So,
I'm back.
there you're back. There you go.
I hit the wrong button to go back to my other screen.
Oh, there you go. There you go. So, as far as you said, Lamar's over under 65. That's how many carries though?
Let me go back to that game to look. Side note, while I'm going back to that game, if you are betting on FanDuel, people are betting on FanDuel, there is a line. I normally don't go for the special bets on FanDuel because they're usually sucker bets. They suck. But there is one that I do like this week, which is Lamar and Patrick Mahomes to combine for over 100 rushing yards is plus 115. Worth a touch of a sprinkle there. I do like that bet. Rush attempts for Lamar is over 10.5.
Oof.
That's a over stout line. I don't love that line.
Yeah, I'd almost pick the under on that. He had 11 last week, and I think that he pretty much ran all over what he wanted. So
the thing you have to factor in with that, though, right, is if the Ravens are winning in a close game, kneel downs count as rush attempts.
Yeah.
Right. So like, this is one thing that like as a sports bettor people are thinking of, right? Like if I'm taking that line and I expect the Ravens to be winning at the end of the game, am I factoring in 3 kneel downs?
Yeah. It's true.
But
I didn't even think about
10 and a
that.
half,
Yeah.
that's high. 10 and a half is high. I mean,
Yeah.
put it this way. Lamar Jackson's 10 and a half. Their starting running back, Gus Edwards, is a 10 and a half also. So,
Yeah. I think.
the one line I do like, though, with Lamar, we talked about it in the pre-show a little bit. His longest rush, over 17 and a half yards. I do like that one. I think he can scramble for 20 plus easily.
What do they have his over under on yards on completions?
207 and a half.
Oh, jeez.
And then completions is over 19 and a half.
So he's got a. Oh man, yeah. Oof. I'd take the under on that one. That's a sprinkle right there. I just don't.
Yeah, I don't
see
think
that
he's
happening,
gonna.
but
I don't see him throwing a ton of passes in this game. I see a lot of running the ball in this game.
yeah, I agree.
So
Yeah, there you go.
all right,
Well,
I think we got our picks right. You're
got him
going
in.
Chiefs at 3.5. The
Yep.
Ravens win, right?
It's gonna be
Or
close. It's gonna go either way. Yeah, I've just taken the three
Chiefs
and a
three and
half.
a half. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm on the flip side. I like the Ravens in that game. I don't love going against Patty Mahomes, and Andy Reid, but I'm gonna go Ravens. And then in this game, we both have the Lions plus the 7.
correct.
I said Lions outright.
Straight up.
Lean over in this game as
But
well.
that money line's if at 7. That's got to be like $1.85 on the money line.
Oh no, it's
What's
3 something.
Is it really that high?
265. I think I hit
Holy
it at
moly.
280 something. I'd have to go back. I'd have to log into the
Yeah.
sports book and look.
Well,
I hit it
I'm
immediately.
taking the 49ers to win, but I think the
Mhm.
the Lions. And
Yeah.
I said I'd push it up to 7.5. Remember that?
Yep.
So
And then my 2 lock and loads are Kelsey over 5.5 receptions and Josh Reynolds over 2.5.
there you go. And I forgot mine already. I wrote them down, and now I threw the piece of paper away. What did I
Gibbs
say?
over.
I said Gibbs over
Gibbs
22 receptions, over
22
22.
and a half receiving yards. And
then
you liked Kelsey over catches as
Yep.
well.
And then I said
And then
either Laporta
Lamar
or
under passing completions.
Yep. There
So,
you go.
all right.
There you go. Yep.
That we'll shift back to this screen here, and we'll wrap it up. Think good show. Looking forward to a good weekend of football.
For sure.
Sunday, I'm sure girlfriend DJ will have a nice list of projects for me to do on Saturday. But Sunday, I will
I'm playing
be
golf.
watching
I'm
these
playing
games.
golf. I'm just telling you.
Oh,
I'm
I'm
playing
jealous.
golf.
I got snow on the ground over here still.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna go out to Arizona for the waste management for the Super Bowl.
Oh,
So we're gonna play. I can't remember where we're playing on Friday. Then Saturday the waste management. Sunday we're playing Raven, and then watching the football game. So
nice. Very nice.
Well, weekend away.
There you go. Good luck, and hit them well, and hopefully, some good football games this weekend. We appreciate everybody watching and chatting. It was great. We had Jim, Dice Doctor Dan, Mel, Idiot Bob, all those guys. Just see if you can get the hell out of here. But yeah, no, good show. Appreciate you guys being here and watching, and hopefully we'll be talking about how we cashed on these plays later. But we'll be back in 2 weeks for the Super Bowl matchup because we have off next week from the show. But we'll be back in 2 Wednesdays from now to talk about the Super Bowl matchup. Who I guess we have slightly differing Super Bowl matchups. I think it's going to be the Ravens and the Lions. You are somebody and the 49ers. We don't know who. Kind of the Chiefs, but could be the Ravens too.
I would like to see the Chiefs. I just think
okay.
That would be
all right.
good,
so Chiefs 49ers.
I think that'd be a good matchup. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it. So, guys, have a great night.
Thanks, everybody.
Enjoy watching football. Have a good weekend, and we'll see you in the next one.
Go Hawks.